more to her liking. He won't, though. He's as tight as a monkey's balls. Edna laughed. Tosh, the landlord of the station hotel, was famous for his meanness. They joked that moths flew out when he opened his wallet. He was also nearly 50, balding and paunchy, an ex-boxer with a broken nose. It was surprising enough that Anne Taylor, with her stunning looks and hoity-toity manner, should even work for him as a barmaid. But although Edna would like to believe what her friend was saying, she thought it extremely unlikely that Anne would stoop to having an affair with him too. Why would she want a man to take her away from here anyway? Reg ain't a boozer and he's always in work, she said. Iris rolled her eyes with impatience. Are you blind and deaf? She exclaimed. Everyone knows they fight all the time. Mrs. Gardner downstairs to them says they're at it hammer and tongs most every night. Me and Sid fight all the time and all, Edna retorted. Especially when he stays in the pub and his dinner's ruined. That don't mean I go looking for someone else. Iris moved closer to her friend. She neglects those kids, she said conspiratorially. Back in the winter, when the snow was on the ground, sometimes they was waiting on the doorstep with their teeth chattering for hours for their mum to get back. If it weren't for Reg, I don't reckon they'd ever get a decent meal or clean clothes. She spends all the money on clothes and hairdos. And why would she do that if it weren't to catch a new man? Edna knew it was true about the two little girls waiting on the doorstep in the cold after school. She'd taken them in a few times herself, but she thought Iris was being a bit malicious about the rest, so she made no comment. She liked Reg Taylor. He looked like a thug with his big shoulders and hair cut as close as a convict's. But he'd been the first to come round to offer help when her pipes burst in the winter and Sid was working away. Just the way Reg talked about his little girls showed how much he loved them, and she didn't believe he would stand for his wife neglecting them. Oh, I know Reg is a good sort, Iris said, as if she'd read Edna's thoughts. But she's a bad un. Fancy her leaving those little kiddies cooped up in that flat all day while she gets her hair done. It ain't never right. The Taylor girls didn't think it was right either. As their mother was walking up the street, they were watching her from the window. They saw her pass Mrs. Grooms and Mrs. Brown, and once she'd gone round the corner, they grabbed the spare key from the mantelpiece and skipped out, knowing she wouldn't be back for at least 2 hours. They were making for Manor House Gardens, the pretty park with a lake only 10 minutes away. Within an hour, they had joined some other children down in the mud on the banks of the River Quaggy which ran through it, until the park keeper spotted them. All 6 children involved in building a dam across the river jerked up their heads in alarm at the sound of his outraged shout from the bridge some 20 yards away. Dulcie Taylor didn't stop to see what her companions would do, just grabbed her younger sister May's hand, hauled her up the riverbank, and squeezed first May, then herself, through the same bent railing they had entered through. Quick, hide under there, Dulcie gasped, shoving May beneath a dense shrub on the other side of the pathway, then, with only the briefest glance around, crawling in too. Seconds later, the park keeper in his brown uniform came riding past on his bicycle. Dulcie put her hand over May's mouth and whispered that she wasn't to move until he was out of sight. As they could hear him yelling at the others, no more than 30 or 40 feet away from their hiding place, they stayed crouched under the bush, both panting with fright. Dulcie was 8.5. May had had her 5th birthday only 2 days ago, and they were very alike, with blonde hair which they wore in plaits, pale skin, and wide blue eyes. Yet May was always referred to by neighbours as the pretty little one. It wasn't that Dulcie was plain, though she was rather thin and gawky, with new front teeth which looked a little large for her small face, merely that May endeared herself to people by smiling readily and chatting, and she didn't look permanently anxious as her older sister did. Dulcie was an anxious child, and it was quite out of character for her to suggest slipping out to the park while their mother was out, or to do anything as reckless as playing in the river. Normally, she was a timid...